Hello, my name is Morgan. I'm the pastor to students here at Calvary Church of the Nazarene, and I'm excited to be sharing the Maundy Thursday devotional thought for today. To get started, I would like for you to add this to the comment box below. There we go, I'm pointing to it. The comments right below. Have you ever been expecting something, and then when you actually got to what you were expecting, it was a total disappointment? It was not what you were imagining, not even close. For example, maybe you went to a new restaurant and the picture of what you ordered just looked magnificent. It looked like the most wonderful, indulgent thing, and you were looking so forward to it coming out. You were hungry, but then when the plate was set in front of you, the image that you saw and the thing that you were expecting did not represent the thing that was put in front of you. Or maybe you were online shopping and made the mistake of ordering clothes online because they looked awesome and you loved it and thought, man, well, surely the measurements match my measurements, it'll fit great. And then it arrives to your door and you try it on and it is nothing like what it looked like online. Go ahead and comment. Have you ever been expecting something and then you were disappointed by what it was when you actually saw it? I had one of those moments when my expectations and my disappointment were a little bit too real. It happened a couple years ago. I had taken a group of my students to a middle school camp in northern Ohio, and I had served at this camp during college. I had great memories there. I thought really highly of the camp, and I couldn't wait to share it with this group of students. And so we made the drive up, and as we were checking in at camp, we were some of the first ones there. And the camp director pulled me aside and said, "Hey, Morgan, can you fill in as a counselor in this girls' cabin, as well as the camp nurse for the week?" If you don't know, I do not have any nursing experience. You can ask some of the adult leaders who question me about CPR, and they know the things, and I do not know those things. So luckily, they had somebody who was just a call away who could handle serious things. They were looking more for someone who could just handle, the little Band-Aid being handed out or simple things that come up. So I said, I can do that. And the week went on. I think I handed out 3 Band-Aids during the week, and that was pretty much the extent of it, which I was very okay with. But then the last night of camp came. And if you've never been to a student camp, whether it's middle school or high school, in my opinion, the last night is just one of the best nights of the whole week because everybody has been getting to know each other throughout the week. You've learned things, you've tried new things, you've grown and developed, and just so much happens in that week. And everybody's aware that this is their last night. The last night to laugh together and take pictures and have fun and make memories. And there's just such an energy and excitement for that last night. And so we'd gotten to our last night. The last message had been given. The last dinner had been shared. And all that was left was this final kind of hurrah celebration, just kicking off this last night altogether. And I was so excited for it. I was on my way there, just imagining, like, man, they're playing that song that I like. I can't wait to go, start dancing with the girls that I brought. And I had all these expectations for this final night of camp and what it was going to look like. And before I got to the door, I was stopped and brought aside for a couple of students that needed some nursing attention. A couple of them are not as relevant to the story, but the one that I do want to share with you was a middle school boy who had complained that his feet hurt. And looking at his feet, it was because he had only packed flip-flops for a week of camp, and his toes at this point, by the end of the week, if this is a foot, obviously this would be the big toe, but to make it easy, pretend this is the big toe. Between these 2 toes, all the skin had rubbed raw on both feet between the toes. And not only was it raw, there were blisters forming where his flip-flop straps were. And so he didn't have any other shoes. This was the last night. His feet were hurting. And so I told him, okay, we'll clean this up and hopefully we can make it feel better. I don't know. Again, I'm not a nurse, but I thought, first we probably need to wash his feet. They looked how you would imagine, someone's feet might look with wearing flip-flops around outdoors for a week. They needed cleaned first. So I began to clean his feet and tried to wash between his toes and just get his feet clean before wrapping up the toes that needed wrapped up, and then looked at his blisters and where the skin had come off and tried to see if there was any grass or dirt pieces to pick out so that that didn't get stuck in there. And then once I did that, then I began to actually put the Neosporin where the blisters were and wrap it so it at least didn't rub anymore the rest of the camp. And as I was doing this, to be honest, my first thought was, wow, this is really gross. Like, I'm literally holding a foot in my hand that is not clean, and I'm separating toes to like make sure it's cleaned and to deal with it. And it was more up close and personal with the foot than I have ever wanted to be. And so in that moment, my expectation was this final hurrah party that was so fun. Instead, what happened was this moment of holding a dirty foot and cleaning out blisters and wrapping them, followed by 2 girls in the cabin who got sick that night, starting at 1 a.m. all the way through 5 a.m. of throwing up and needing to switch beds and clean things up, and it just was a full night, that last night of camp. So my expectation was this fun, memorable last night, and instead it was holding dirty feet and cleaning up vomit. So I'm sorry if that's graphic, but that is what happened this last night of camp. But as I was holding the foot of this middle school boy, I just remember Jesus meeting me in this moment when I was grossed out and when I did have a bit of a bad attitude, thinking, man, I should be like over this final party, and instead I'm not, I'm here. And that's when Jesus reminded me of one of his final acts right before he went to the cross. I'm going to read from John 13, 1 through 17. It says, "It was just before Passover feast. Jesus knew the time had come for him to leave this world and go to the Father. Having loved his own who were in the world, he now showed them the full extent of his love. The evening meal was being served, and the devil had already prompted Judas Iscariot, son of Simon, to betray Jesus. Jesus knew the Father had put all things under his power, and that he had come from God and was returning to God. So he got up from the meal, took off his outer clothing, and wrapped a towel around his waist. After that, he poured water into a basin and began to wash his disciples' feet, drying them with the towel that was wrapped around him. He came to Simon Peter, who said to him, 'Lord, are you going to wash my feet?' Jesus replied, 'You don't realize now what I'm doing, but later you will understand.' 'No,' said Peter, 'you should never wash my feet.' Jesus answered, 'Unless I wash you, you have no part with me.' 'Then, Lord,' Simon Peter replied, 'not just my feet, but my hands and my head also.' Jesus answered, 'A person who's had a bath needs only to wash his feet. His whole body is clean. And you are clean, though not every one of you.' For he knew one was going to betray him, and that was why he said not everyone was clean. When he had finished washing their feet, he put on his clothes and returned to his place. 'Do you understand what I've done for you?' he asked them. 'You call me teacher and Lord, and rightly so, for that's what I am. And now that I, your Lord and teacher, have washed your feet, you also should wash one another's feet. I have set for you an example that you should do as I have done for you. I tell you the truth, no servant is greater than his master, nor is a messenger greater than the one who sends him. Now you know these things, you'll be blessed if you do them.'" Going back to this topic or idea of expectations versus reality, in this moment, the disciples were expecting Jesus to, finally come in full glory and power, and literally take over as a real-time political leader or ruler. That was their expectation, was this mighty, powerful display of who Jesus was. Instead, what he did was the exact opposite. He took on the role of a servant and began washing their feet one by one, including the one who was betraying him. And Jesus already knew that was going to happen and still washed his feet. I think the disciples also had the same tension between expectation and what was actually happening. Just as much as that last night of camp, I found myself between what I had expected and the fun that I expected this last night of camp to be versus what it actually was. And to be honest, as Christ met me in that moment, like I said, it was not something that, as it was unfolding, that I was like, yeah, I'm washing feet. This is great. Jesus did this. Now I'm doing it. This is awesome. No, my honest reaction was, man, I want to be in that party with my students. And also, this is kind of gross. And like I said, that's when Jesus met me in this moment and reminded me of this story and this part of Scripture, and kind of taught me a lesson about following him that night, that following him in ministry is not necessarily the big party. There are times that, we do that and that makes sense. But the truest type of ministry was, sitting here with this boy whose feet hurt, and wrapping up his toes and cleaning his feet to help him get back on his feet. It's those kind of messy, little, sometimes gross moments of servanthood that capture the heart of God. What he is like, what he does. I think following him looks like that more than dancing at a party, even though both are needed. I say that especially in youth ministry. I know how much having fun can also be part of it. But I was checked between what I expected and what things were actually looking like. And I'm wondering too, for all of us really at different points in our life and in our walk with Christ, I think we forget what the reality is, what the real expectation is, versus what we are imagining. To be totally honest, I imagine God moving in big ways. I imagine the fun, flashy, big things, the mighty things, the things that, I can tell people about for years and years. Those are the things that I imagine and think about. I don't spend a lot of time just imagining and daydreaming, wow, what's it going to be like when I open my Bible tomorrow morning when I'm struggling to wake up and am drinking coffee to help me feel focused. Those are not the big flashy moments. But I think that what I want to challenge you with, that's not what I think. I know I want to challenge you with that. But I think that it is safe to say that sometimes our expectations are not what Jesus has in mind, but rather what he has in mind for us knowing him and following him and growing closer to him are perhaps a little bit more nitty gritty and cruddy and simple than what we might be picturing. For example, many of us probably imagine God moving and speaking through Sunday morning worship, and he does, and I'm so thankful for that. But we don't necessarily look for him Monday through Saturday in our Bibles and in our quiet time of prayer. We might expect him to move and to challenge us in mighty ways when we go away for a retreat or for a conference, or if you're young, for a camp or a missions trip. But God wants to move and speak in the day-to-day life just as much, if not more, than during those special events that we go to. And when we think about service, I would say that the things that we do even in our own household matter as much as what we do on a community service day. Are we willing to step up and do the dirty dishes that have been there for 2 days? I don't know if you like to do dishes. They are not my favorite thing. And yes, they will sit for a couple days before I get to them. But I don't look forward to doing that. That's a nitty-gritty, messy little thing. And I think sometimes following Jesus means stepping up and serving through the very real, practical little ways that aren't flashy and big and pretty. Whether it is helping with the dishes or helping with the laundry or going and mowing the lawn or whatever it is that you don't want to do, but would help. It would serve and it would help if you stepped in and did them. Or maybe in serving your community, rather than just one-time community service events that, again, they're powerful, they're helpful, but maybe God is trying to move in a very small and simple relationship that you already have. Or maybe he's trying to, move through a place that you're already in. Maybe he is trying to work through you in a very simple ministry that you come to week in and week out, even though It's not big and flashy, and you don't see big things happen all the time, but it needs you to be faithful to keep moving. What I'm trying to say is, I know that I find myself doing this, and I think it's so easy for all of us to do, to imagine our faith and following Christ as, these big things, or as looking or being a certain way. And to be honest, I think especially that last night of camp was the most real example of no, actually cleaning up this foot and taking care of these girls at 3 a.m. That's more what student ministry looks like than this big party. In the same way, I want to challenge you that those simple day-to-day tasks, the nitty-gritty, the cruddy, the not exciting, not flashy things, those matter just as much as the big things. So for you, if you need to step up at home, whether you're a student watching, or a spouse, or have others, if you live on your own, then this does not apply, but maybe it means stepping up at home and finding ways to serve in your household. Maybe it means stepping up with your friends and doing just a simple task that isn't that exciting, but would make a big difference. Maybe it does mean choosing to just commit to serving somewhere, even though it's not flashy and not exciting, but that ministry needs you. Maybe that's what it means. Maybe it means committing to just sit down and be in scripture and be in prayer daily, even when you don't feel God moving or things don't feel exciting and alive. They will. God will work through those moments and he will move. But my challenge for you today, and I feel like I'm getting fired up just thinking about it, but my challenge for you today, and for myself, is to embrace the role of the humble servant, to embrace the messy, small, not pretty moments, to embrace those moments of knowing the Lord and the simple, ordinary, mundane moments, and to embrace serving in the messy, mundane little moments, rather than only the big and exciting and flashy. So whatever that looks like, feel free to leave a comment for what that looks like for you. Like I said, maybe it's just doing the dishes at home. Maybe it's deciding to say yes to serving at a ministry, just to step in and to serve. But I think all of us can grow in the servanthood role of Christ more. And I think in those moments as we do serve, I think he meets us in those moments in more powerful ways than what you might expect. So I appreciate you for watching. Happy Maundy Thursday. Happy feet washing. Happy and good luck with getting involved and diving in with the not flashy, not pretty, simple little acts of service. So yes, thank you for watching. Message me if you have any questions or comments, or email me. I'd be happy to talk with you about them. But again, thank you for watching, and I look forward to hearing from you. Bye.